What is going on, everybody? It is game day today. Game day is upon us. 4 o'clock if you're on the East Coast, 3:25 if you're in Texas time or Central time. Asian Persuasion, what's going on? Nervous about this one? Great show last night. Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into that. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't done so already, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you want to hit the join button, by all means. If you're on the Twitter/X side of things, you know what to do over there. Welcome to the Space Cowboy Show. I'm your host, Ricardo. And with that, we have a bunch of things that we have to talk about with this upcoming game against the Denver Broncos here. This is a huge game for the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, for the Denver Broncos, they have been one of the NFL's best teams this year. They really should be 6-1, arguably undefeated. The only two losses they had were the one goof where they had the penalty happen against the Colts, who are also looking very good. And then they lost to the Chargers at the tail end of that fourth quarter, 23-20. Otherwise, they've been very disciplined, a fantastic football team. They have several guys on that defense that have been able to generate pressure and get to the quarterback. So that's what's going to be a huge test for this Cowboys offense and many other things. Now, getting into the meat and potatoes of this particular game, I had to go and look at what the Denver Broncos have done defensively, because I think that is going to be where you win the game. Obviously, we know how the Cowboys defense is, so I'm not going to try and get too much into that. But looking at the statistics on this Broncos defense, they have, let me see if it's going to reorganize it. Here we go. You have Nick Bonito, who has 8 sacks already through, 7 games? 6 sacks for Jonathan Cooper, 3.5 for Justin Sherrod. Like this, they have many guys with 3+ sacks already. 2 guys that are like right there for getting to double digits. So it looks like the Orange Crush all over again. Now, the other thing is and like I mentioned on the show with Cowboys Corner, is that Sean Payton teams typically are very well disciplined. And on top of that, he's done a great job over in Denver of building a football program that is able to play a style of football which works for him. And clearly now in year 3 of the Sean Payton experience, Denver is looking like one of the better teams in the NFL that can make a run this particular year. And it's mainly because their defense is doing their part. And again, the discipline factor. They came back down from a 18-0 deficit with 6 minutes to go. And that has everything to do with the fact that they didn't give up in that game. And again, Sean Payton's a fantastic coach. Now, that doesn't mean that they are without their flaws, of course. I think that there are instances of where the Cowboys can take care of business. But the one thing that worries me is that we have had our offense look fantastic at home, but on the roads it's been a different story. Really, the only I would say like outlier game, if that's the word I'm looking for, would be the game versus the Jets, where you put 44 points on them. But I gotta double check that. Sorry, it's just kind of crazy. A lot of stuff moving around. No, you put 37. My apologies. I'm just remembering against Washington, you put up the 44 points. But looking at how the Cowboys have done this year, so on the road, you've put up 20 points, 14 points, 37 points, and 27. Now, I'm going to be very clear that the game against Carolina, you should have won without having to put up 30 plus points. That's just how the game was going, and I think people would agree with me there. But with this game versus Denver, the Cowboys have not beaten the Denver Broncos at all in the past. Let's see here. The last time the Cowboys actually beat the Denver Broncos at all was back in 1995 when they came to Texas Stadium. But if we're talking about the Cowboys beating the Broncos in Denver, the last time that happened was in 1992, coincidentally back in the dynasty years, as the Cowboys would go on to win Super Bowls in those particular seasons. Now, I really think that the Cowboys are not going to win this game. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope that I'm wrong. I did predict that when we were going into October, which this is the final game of October, that the Cowboys would go 2-2 in the stretch. So far, they're 2-1, and I don't want to be correct. I did say that I want them to go 3-1 at least or higher, and they had the opportunity to be 3-0 if it wasn't for the defense doing what it did against Carolina and Brian Schottenheimer kind of going into a shell. Speaking of which, that's the one thing that I'm looking for today is, can the Dallas Cowboys go out there and win or lose? Doesn't matter to me, but can they at least put up a fight? Can they show physicality? Can they do the things that Brian Schottenheimer has preached on? As we've seen, he's been very consistent in wanting to do those things. I understand that it's a one-year thing where, we're just going through the motions of a new head coach trying to put together his philosophy for what this team wants to do. But this is also a game where you need to be able to go out there and do what you need to do. If you can win this game, you can say to yourself, okay, this is the moment that the Cowboys finally put this thing together. But knowing us, we would win this game and then go on to lose against Arizona. My apologies. But the way that I'm really looking at this is, as you're looking at the juncture of this season, as I'm pulling up the schedule, the Dallas Cowboys are going up against a playoff team, a team that's so far leading the AFC West, a team that they've had a horrible matchup with in the past however many years. It's a very big game for this Cowboys team because this could be a crucial win. And I believe Brian Schottenheimer was actually was born in Denver, if I recall. So, homecoming for him there. But I think that the other thing too is that you have Arizona, which they'll probably get Kyler Murray back, and Kyler Murray has done very well at AT&T Stadium. I don't think he's lost there since he has played in that stadium on the collegiate level and even at the NFL level. But again, you need to be able to have that signature win. And, we kind of had those conversations of like, okay, have the Cowboys had a signature win this season? Now, I thought, early on it was New York, but really as we're kind of looking into it, you've been up and down, basically. You've been up and down this entire season, and you haven't been able to really go out there and say this is the statement win. And I think this can be the statement win for the Cowboys. If they can go into Denver, they take care of business, and they beat Denver however that they'd be. If you have that Brandon Aubrey hit a 75-yard field goal, is what it is. But I really think that when you look at the next 4 games after the Denver game, okay, you have Arizona at home, Las Vegas in Las Vegas, Philly and Kansas City at home, and that Kansas City game is on Thanksgiving, okay? To me, this is going to be a crucial part of the Cowboys season because as we're kind of starting to see how these teams are turning out, Denver's a really good opponent. Arizona's been terrible, but can you finally beat Arizona, once again, because it's been a while since you've beaten Arizona. You go to Las Vegas. You should take care of business against them. They're not a good football team. Philadelphia, Kansas City, Detroit. I think that's going to be really the make or break it part of the season because Minnesota hasn't looked particularly well, but they're a talented team. But you've had their number of recent. Los Angeles, not the Rams, excuse me, the Chargers at home. Then you have Washington and New York on the road to close out the year. So it's not like this back end of the schedule isn't as bad as we thought it was when we were coming in, but there's going to be a stretch of games where the Cowboys are going to need to capitalize. And I really do believe that starts against Denver. So let's talk about the over-unders and things of that caliber. So right now, the Dallas Cowboys, I believe, are a 3.5-point underdog in this particular game. Yes, they're a 3.5-point underdog in this game. Cooper Beebe is not going to be playing. There's, of course, the situation with Trevon Diggs, which I wanted to actually talk about really quickly. Now, I did talk about this on Cowboys Corner where – sorry, I'm just trying to see what's going on. I did talk about this on Cowboys Corner where the Dallas Cowboys have been very eerie when it comes to the Trevon Diggs situation. Because typically when things like this happen, usually Jerry or Steven are more vocal about what's going on and they're not afraid to speak their mind. But the fact that they had no comment really tells me, okay, I think they're trying to get rid of Trevon. And I have to give a shout out to Mike, if Mike's watching, shout out to you, my guy, because he brought up this point of maybe the Cowboys were trying to shop Trevon Diggs earlier on and no team's biting. And so they're going to throw him on IR to see what they can do. Now, I did mention, and just so that you're aware, for the Cowboys, if they wanted to have a player to return from IR, you can't actually trade a player that is on it. But the problem is you have to open up that 21-day practice window, and on top of that, the team that's making the trade for him would have to have him pass a physical. Now, the thing is if he is truly hurt, it's not a matter of if they get rid of Trevon Diggs. I think it's a matter of when. It's clear that Trevon Diggs is not going to be on this team moving forward. He hasn't looked the same since the ACL injury in 2023. And with you paying Deron Bland, and I think if they are looking to find a difference maker on the defensive line, that's where I think that, or if they're trying to re-sign Pickens, whatever you want to say about it, I think that's the way you utilize your resources. Now, in terms of where we're at right now, in terms of the trade deadline, the one thing I don't want the Cowboys to do is make a panic trade, right? A trade where the Dallas Cowboys, and we've seen this several times, where the season looks like it's lost or things are going just under, just going haywire, and they make a trade, right? They go after a Jonathan Mingo. I wouldn't say a Trey Lance type of trade was a panic trade, but still, you're making a trade for a player because you feel like that's the need to do. We've seen it with Amari Cooper. Right? Those are the types of trades that we don't want to have happen. Like, I don't want them trading one of the first round picks for an off-ball linebacker that's not even worthy of a first round selection. Now, I would say that if it were up to me, I've gone on record, I'm going to stick to it. I would not mind Max Crosby coming here or any guy that's, going to help on the edge. But I think the price has to speak for what you're going to be giving up. And we know the Cowboys have a great relationship with the Raiders, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did make a move for a guy like Max Crosby. But again, it has to be done in the spirit of this team can go on a run, not the, oh my God, we're going to lose the season, so we need to make this move, and now we're just scrambling to make it into the playoffs. But anything can happen, really. The Cowboys are looking for their first win streak this year. They should have had it the other day, but they didn't. And I just think that the other thing when it comes down to it is it has to happen at some point, right? That they got to beat the Broncos. What's going on, Scotty? Just saw this. I'm wondering, shouldn't Dak perform better than Dart? He should. He should. Definitely. But he's not done well against the Broncos historically in the times that he's played them, number one. But number two, that's kind of where I was going to get into, is that the Broncos aren't an unbeatable team. They've been in moments where they really should have lost some games. Like, they should have lost that game versus the Jets. They should have lost that game versus the Giants, and we all know. And that's going back to the point of the discipline factor. Like, they're not giving up on these games, and when teams present you the opportunity to win these games, they're allowing you to do that. But to that point, I think that Dak should have a better game than Jackson Dart. He shouldn't be making the same mistakes as Jackson Dart. Now, if we go out there and we lose, and it's again the same song and dance defensively, like we're not holding up, like I just don't want this to turn into the shootout from 2013 where it's 51-48 and you're basically asking Dak Prescott to play a perfect game and he doesn't. And that's kind of the main thing is I'm worried that offensively you're going to have a down game, but can the defense do just enough? Like your safeties are not looking so hot. Your linebackers are just looking all over the place. You haven't been able to generate pressure. And Bo Nix is mobile. So that's another thing is that this isn't like a guy that is a pocket passer that you can kind of get to. That's what's going to worry me about this whole thing. Now, talking about where the Cowboys currently stand with their particular roster and how we're doing compared to the Broncos. Now, the Cowboys currently have they have Dak being the second leading passer in the NFL. I believe he's second in touchdown passes. And then you also have Javonte Williams, who's the league's second leading rusher. This is what's crazy, man. 111 rushing carries, 592 yards, averaging 5.3 yards per carry with 6 rushing touchdowns. That is fantastic. That's fantastic efficiency. What we're really trying to see is can Jadon Blue walk through the door? That's what we really need to see. Then looking at the rest of this list, you have George Pickens leading the way, 54 targets, 36 receptions, 607 yards, and 6 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb basically averaging 100 rushing yards, averaging about 100 a game. He's doing really well for himself. Jake Ferguson, man, 6 passing touchdowns. He has 51 receptions this year. That's crazy. But defensively is where the talk is. Currently, your leading sack. The guy that's leading your team in sacks is James Houston with 3.5. For reference, the Broncos have I think it was 4 guys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 guys that have 3 sacks or more. Kenny Clark has 1.5 sacks. Then you have a bunch of dudes with just 1 sack. You need to do better than that. And then when we talk about the interceptions and turnovers category of things, that's when things get really interesting because with the Cowboys have only had 3 interceptions all of this year. Now, the Broncos have only had 2. So that's going to be a crucial way that the Cowboys find a way to win this football game is not turning the ball over. And if they do turn the ball over, you need to make sure that they don't get burned. Like that's what you just got to hope and pray for. Now, the other thing is where we're at this point is the... Sorry, I'm just trying to see what people are saying at this particular point because some people were actually taking the Cowboys to win this game. They talk about how the Broncos defense showed cracks in it. And on top of that, you basically, if you're the Cowboys, if you can just keep it a field goal game where a field goal wins it, you should be fine. But I'm going to take the I'm going to take the over on tonight's game. I think that the Cowboys and Broncos will hit the over. And for reference, the Cowboys in the Dak Prescott era, you had the 2017 game where they got destroyed 42-17. And then you had, and I believe that was a game where it was tied at one point. And then you had the one game where we got shut out 30-0 basically, but we scored 2 late touchdowns and 2-point conversions to make it look more like a respectable score when that wasn't the case. But I think that this game's going to say a lot about Brian Schottenheimer. It's going to say a lot about what we're trying to do as a football team, and then that's what we want to see moving forward. Now, in terms of my game predictions, and then I'm going to get out of here because I have to take care of a couple things. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys to drop this game to the Denver Broncos. I think that Denver's a very well-coached team. They're a very good team at that. And I think that the main thing is that we have to really think about where this team is at, this Cowboys team. You have a defense that's just not doing anything whatsoever to give you a chance to win a game. Minus the fact that you went up against a Washington team that had no receivers whatsoever. I mean, you still were having moments in the game where I don't know. But this is going to be a much tougher task for them. I don't think they'll rise up to the occasion. Maybe they prove me wrong. But there's that. The last time Dak faced Denver at home in 2021, I don't think he was healthy. His hamstring was messed up. Rush should have started that game. And I would agree. I think that the Cowboys were in a better position to let Dak rest a bit, but I think they were forcing him back. considering you look at the night and day similarities from that. But again, I think that for Dak, he should have a much better game against the Broncos this go around. The premier matchup is going to be CeeDee Lamb versus Patrick Surtain II. I'm really curious to see how that goes. And then on top of that, just looking all around, I think that this is going to, again, be the litmus test for this Cowboys team. Can they go out there and beat a team that's not a sub 500 opponent? That is going to be the main thing for me. Now, as we're coming up on 20 minutes, if anybody has any questions or concerns about the upcoming game, you're more than happy to talk about them now, and then we'll go ahead and get out of here. Yep, that this time Dak is healthy, and I would agree. I think that, and Dak has even said it. Dak even mentioned doomed, but Dak has even said it that in 2017 he didn't really make a effort to try and improve his game because when you're coming off the 13-3 season, I think this is why a lot of rookies go through that sophomore slump, is that they think that they don't need to really improve their game until they actually have to. So there is that, as I'm just checking a couple things. Sorry. But yeah, man, I think that, we'll see how this game goes. Obviously, I'll be back for the live show. I won't be back, might do it at 9 o'clock. I'll see how I feel. But yeah, guys, I mean, is what it is. One question is the defense. Can it rise to the occasion? However, if we don't make trades to help the defense, what should we trade for? Well, the thing is that if you're not making a trade, if we do make trades to help the defense, okay, so I think that you're going to need an edge guy because Donovan Ezeraku is just not there yet. He's just not. And I think the problem is that you were banking on Sam Williams and Marshawn Nealon to walk through the door, and they haven't. So for me, I think the priority is getting an edge rusher to really help solidify this defense, because when we really think about it, you could go get an off-ball linebacker, and that would help. But for me, I think that if you're going to go trade for someone, go trade for an edge guy that can be a productive player for you. And that's where I think you start, because people talk about, Minkah Fitzpatrick being a possible move that the Cowboys can make. I wouldn't do that. I don't think a safety is going to put you over the top. He would help for sure, but I think the problem has been for the Cowboys is they haven't been able to generate enough pressure at all. And I think that's what's going to need to change this particular game. Hopefully the defense plays more man coverage than with some blitz. I think that can help the defense too. Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that, if Eberflus wants to be more of a zone type of guy, fine, but you don't have the personnel to do that yet. Not this season. Max Crosby or Hendrickson, Davis or Logan Wilson. So if it were up to me, I would go after Max Crosby. You would have more team control for the next 5 seasons. Trey Hendrickson, I wouldn't trade for, mainly because of the fact that he's not been playing as well as we would think, but also like you're going to have to re-sign him, and he's on with the age that he's at. I wouldn't do that. Now, as for Demario Davis versus Logan Wilson, I think Demario Davis would be a nice stopgap, but I would want to go for Logan Wilson. But then again, I've been a huge fan of Demario Davis. I've always wanted here in Dallas for the longest time. Fortunately, the Cowboys haven't paid up on that. But I think Demario Davis would be more of a Band-Aid to an open wound that you have at the linebacker position. So there's that. All right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I thank you guys so much for tuning into today's show. I will see you guys after the game, and hopefully we won. If not, then depending on how we lose, we're going to have big conversations. Heck, the Jets have some defensive ends. Like Jermaine Johnson was a guy that I brought up on, I think, 2 shows ago, because with Jermaine Johnson, I like the intangibles he has, and you could probably get him for a day 3 pick, and you would have 2 more years of control. He's just been a hurt guy. So I wouldn't mind if they went after Jermaine Johnson if they want to try and move some stuff around, but that's just me. So there's that. Anyways, guys, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and I'll see you after this game.